without a doubt, the most intriguing matchup, in my opinion, of Week 5 is Utah State going on the road to take on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt 4-0, Utah State 3-1. Uh, it's going to be a battle of the quarterbacks. Diego Pavia has been tearing it up at Vanderbilt the past 2 seasons thus far. Bryson Barnes is looking great this season. Both dual threat quarterbacks. Both extend plays however they can, and have solid playmakers around them. Defensively, Vanderbilt, stingy defensive team. The Commodores do not give up that many points, and when they do, they're outscoring you by 50 or 60 points. Utah State, their defense has improved. They look good at times. They get enough stops. They get some turnovers just to help out the offense on their possessions, keeping the ball. It's a 10:45 Mountain Time game. It's going to be on the SEC Network. Utah State 3-1, Vanderbilt undefeated 4-0. Pavia's looked terrific thus far this season. 890 yards, 8 touchdowns. He has 2 picks. He leads the Commodores in rushing yards with 215. He has a rushing touchdown as well. And from there, you got a mix of guys at the running back position. Cedric Alexander, McLean Young. Of course, his favorite target's Eli Stowers, who came with him over from New Mexico State a couple of seasons ago. He has 233 receiving yards thus far. Nick Rinaldi and Miles Capers, leading in sacks right now for the Commodores. We're talking about a team that's putting up 49 points per game through the first 4, 100 first downs. Stopping them on the offensive side, it's gonna be a tough task no matter who they play this season. As for the Aggies, they look good against UTEP. Took a loss to Texas A&M on the road, but they come right back. They handle Air Force with ease. Their best game last weekend against McNeese. That game was pretty much done by halftime. So far they have a pretty good resume to show that they can score some points. This is their first, I think, true test. I think this is a much more difficult task than Texas A&M was on the road. Vanderbilt's a no-nonsense team that looks to put you out of it early. I think both these teams are set up so similar offensively that it's gonna be it's gonna be a shooter. I think it could be a real high-scoring game. Defense is gonna be the key in this one. I favor Vanderbilt's defense by getting some stops, maybe forcing some turnovers. It's be interesting to see what the Aggies defense can hold up if they can limit Pavia to a degree. Vanderbilt opens up at 22.5 point favorites. The over-under on this game is 59.5. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. This is Utah State playing a ranked team, 18th in the country right now. If they could put on a good showing here, you really feel confident that there may not be too many teams at all that can mess with them in Mountain West play. I know the quarterbacks are both going to try and do everything they can to win this game, and their teams are going to rely on them heavily, but I think it's going to be who establishes the running game more effectively through their trio of running backs. If they can allow their quarterbacks to take some of the pressure off them, just require them to make some good reads downfield and just make it a grinded out running game, relying on your defense to come up with some big stops. I'm not sure Utah State right now is anywhere near Vanderbilt's league. Completely different ballparks here, but I think they could keep it close for a little bit. I just feel like Vanderbilt's one of the best teams in the country for sure, and I don't, I wouldn't be surprised to see them pull away from this. Definitely in the second half. That's when they're known to really turn it on another gear and separate themselves from everyone they faced this year. Certainly a great way to start your morning of matchups. Utah State going on take on Vanderbilt. It's a 10:45 Mountain Time game on the SEC Network. Be sure to check that one out. Well, if you weren't sold on San Diego State after their blowout victory against Cal last week, they go on the road, take on Northern Illinois, 2.5 point favorites. Northern Illinois 1-2 on the season. San Diego State 2-1, coming off their best victory. It's gonna be interesting to see if they go on and put on a similar performance that they did a week ago and close to a shutout against Northern Illinois on the road, and offense looks decent, you say this is the team to watch out for in the Mountain West. The dark horse. Northern Illinois hasn't looked good this season. Losses to Mississippi State and Maryland that weren't really close. They did beat Holy Cross to start their season. Meanwhile, San Diego State, blowout victory against Stony Brook, and a bad, ugly defeat against Washington State, and then a blowout victory against Cal. So, what will we see this week in Week 5? It's gonna be interesting to see. The offense has looked great at times. They could not get anything done against the Cougars, but certainly the Huskies have not looked good thus far this season. A true lack of offense from Northern Illinois. And what's that going to look like against a stingy, appearingly solid defense in San Diego State? This feels like a game that they're just going to rely on Lucky Sutton for the most part. Let him get the tough yards, extend drives down the field, and maybe from there you rely on Denegal in the red zone, whether with his feet or to get it done on some simple short routes. Denegal has played pretty effective football thus far. He hasn't really made too many mistakes. They haven't relied on him too much. You may not need him to do too much to win this game, and just stay within themselves, limit turnovers, limit mistakes, and rely on your defense to get some stops and put you in some pretty good possessions. Despite their record, I just don't trust a sneaky team like Northern Illinois at home to not put up a fight and try and catch San Diego State off guard coming off a huge victory. I see this, I think a lack of defensive stops and a middling offense from Northern Illinois is not going to help them out whatsoever. I feel like San Diego State's defense is just too good. It's going to be like pulling teeth trying to score on San Diego State. I think the offense is just going to do what they do best and not to try and get too fancy. Just take it one play at a time. I don't think they're going to go for any chunk plays. They're really just going to try and grind it out and really put the pressure on Northern Illinois' offense to match score for score. And well, as a surprise as it was for San Diego State to shut out Cal last weekend, I'm not going against them this weekend. I think the Aztecs put on a solid, impressive looking victory on the road and move on to 3-1 on the season. San Diego State goes on the road to take on Northern Illinois. It's a 1:30 Mountain Time game on ESPN Plus. Be sure to check that out. Now for the game I'm most excited for on the weekend for Mountain West matchups. It's New Mexico State going on to take on New Mexico. The Rio Grande rivalry. Both teams enter this game 2-1 on the season. The first time in a while that's been so. New Mexico, impressive victory against UCLA. New Mexico State's looked good against their opponents. Their last outing was a disappointing loss against Louisiana Tech on the road. Both had bye weeks last week, and they've been preparing this for the past couple weeks. It's looking like it's going to be a near sellout crowd. First time in a while for New Mexico. This game feels like it's going to have a ton of energy going into it. It's a 2 p.m. Mountain Time game on the Mountain West Network. Lobos open up at 13.5-point favorites. I would throw the spreads out the window. This is going to be a tightly contested game, I think. Just a good old rivalry. At least in the case for Jack Lane and the Lobos, I would sort of throw his stats out the window. It's sort of irrelevant. He's played effective football, and he's found a way to keep his team in it, whether it's improvised run or making key crucial throws to extend the drive. As for Logan Fife, they rely on him to a much more different degree. He's without him, I don't know if they're 2-1 on the season. They like to air it out, and the running game hasn't been utilized that much this season. For the Lobos, it's a very scary running back room. You got Scott Cherry Humphrey, you got Damon Bankston, you got DJ McKinney, all talented guys that can get it done for the Lobos. Defensively, the Lobos have improved week by week. They get stops, they get turnovers. They have some holes in their game that they've been tightening up, I'm sure, for the past couple weeks. New Mexico State's wins, aren't as impressive. 19-3 victory over Bryant, 21-14 victory over Tulsa, and a pretty good beating that they got from Louisiana Tech, 49-14. But this is a game that they're gonna put all their efforts into it. Most important game of the season for either team. You're gonna have most of New Mexico watching this game this weekend. I think it's gonna produce fireworks. I think they're gonna trade off scores. I think it's be which team makes the least amount of mistakes, because I think they're both gonna find their way to the end zone. I would have to say I like the Lobos' defense more so, and their offense. Their offense is it's tough to face. They include a lot of read options and trick plays and misdirection. They really have a creative coordinator that's looking for big chunk plays anywhere he can get them. If Jackson Eck can put some pressure on that whatever limited running game they have and really pressure Logan Fife in the backfield so where he can't make those reads on time and maybe get some tackles for loss, it would help out. And on the other side, you got Jamal Thompson Jr. He's their go-to guy defensively. They're going to need him to get in the backfield, pressure Jack Lane, and do his best to prevent the rushing game going according to plan. I feel like it's going to be a close game, but I favor the Lobos. I think they're just too good right now. Jason Eck has a great team, and really, I think we're going to see the full effect of that running game that we saw against UCLA a week ago. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game as well. I think there's going to be a lot of points on the board. I think New Mexico can overwhelm them. I'm not sure how much they win by, but I think the Lobos get it done at home and win the Rio Grande rivalry. The 2 p.m. Mountain Time game on the Mountain West Network. Be sure to check it out. It's New Mexico State taking on New Mexico. Two teams looking to rebound after Week 4 losses. Hawaii goes on the road to take on Air Force. It's a 2:10 p.m. Mountain Time game on FS1. Air Force, tried their best, but they could not outmatch the scoring power of Boise State. They go 1-2 on the season. Meanwhile, Hawaii, in a tightly contested game at home, lose to Fresno State. They go to 3-2 on the season. This is a game of who wants and needs it more to get a rebound victory. Right now, it's a 5.5 point spread favoring Air Force. I would say that's about right because Hawaii. I don't know if Hawaii's the best of their ability right now with Ali Hato in the game. I think they have to make the QB switch. Weaver looked more impressive the past couple of weeks, and I think if he got that start, maybe Hawaii would have pulled off a win against Fresno State. Meanwhile, Air Force, emerging quarterback, sophomore Liam Zarka, he can throw the ball, and that's gonna really help out the Falcons, who have been a one-trick pony for so many years. At this point, we know with Zarka quarterback and Taylor Carson, I don't see Hawaii being able to stop or limit that offense. It's going to be explosive. I think it helps if they have QB change, and if you have Weaver against Zarka and the Falcons, it's going to be quite a game if that's the case. I know Troy Calhoun, he's going to utilize what he saw from last week's loss. And they're going to come back twice as good as they were. It's a refreshing pace to see a primetime matchup for Hawaii, not a 10 o'clock midnight game. Everyone will be able to tune into this game. It's on FS1. I could see a close, similar to last week, shootout type of game, high scoring, matching matching point for point till the very end. It may come down to who has the possession last, may win the game. A game of uncertainty is exactly what we might see. We know Air Force's game plan, but it's going to be interesting to see what Hawaii brings to the table and who's the signal caller for week 5. I feel like this is a crucial conference game that can swing either the winning and losing team in completely different trajectories for the rest of the year. So I think it's a game they take seriously. It's a game they both want to win badly. We may be in for quite a show come Saturday. It's Hawaii going on to take on Air Force. It's a 2:10 p.m. Mountain Time game on FS1. Be sure to check this one out. I can see why Colorado State's going to the Pac-12 next year. They play exactly like a Pac-12 team. Washington State going on to take on Colorado State. 5:30 Mountain Time game on CBS Sportsnet. Colorado State, inconsistencies. They're hot, they're cold. So far, they've been cold of late. Meanwhile, Washington State, who after their win against San Diego State, you thought they were on an upward trajectory. They absolutely get dog walked in their rivalry game against Washington a week ago. Both teams are playing middle of the road football, and both teams are going to take each other on. Colorado State opens up at 5.5-point favorites. I'm not so sure about that. Possibly, we'll see who gets the start this week. Is it Fowler Nicolosi or is it Jackson Broussard who came in and looked great in his showing? On the other side, Jackson Potter didn't get the start in that loss to Washington. Zevi Eckhouse got the start in a couple of interceptions. Both teams can say that they've had inconsistent QB play, and that's kept them out of some crucial games near the end. This feels at the moment to be like a toss-up game. I don't know which team would really be favored that strongly. What we've seen from Colorado State, they've been able to play good football, the past year and some change, and they win the game throwing the ball. If they keep it on the ground, they may be fine, but when it comes to throwing the ball, we've just seen too many inconsistencies, and that's sort of doomed their offense of late. Washington State being one of those spotty Pac-12 teams, they could have an impressive victory one week and get dog walked the next week. Which week is it going to be like for them in week 5? I'm not sure. I like to think Colorado State has a pretty good chance, seeing as Washington State is -7 on the turnover game right now. Meanwhile, Colorado State only -1. The team that makes the fewer mistakes usually ends up winning the game. And that brings us up to penalties. Both teams 23, 26 penalties on the season. Not too much separation there. Washington State's averaging 23 points per game. Colorado State's averaging around 19 points per game. It could be heavily skewed by some blowout victories by Washington State. I guess the question does you trust the Rams right now to get a victory that's more than a touchdown? I'm not so sold on them at the moment, especially if we don't know who's going to be lining up under center. I do favor the Rams running game, and I think that's going to get it done for them on Saturday. I expect a close game with quite a few turnovers and maybe swinging who has the lead through the very end. It's Washington State going on the road to take on Colorado State's 5:30 Mountain Time game on CBS Sportsnet. Be sure to check this one out. We got San Jose State going on to take on Stanford. It's a 5:30 Mountain Time game on the ACC network. We've seen what San Jose State is like thus far with Central Michigan and Texas, and getting that first win of the season a week ago against Idaho. We've seen Stanford. We've seen them take on Hawaii and win against Boston College. I think the takeaway for both these teams is that they're not playing that good of football early on in the season. I think both have found the most success running the ball, and at this point it feels like it's almost a crutch to rely on either one of these quarterbacks lining up this weekend. Just, a lot of turnovers. Meanwhile, for Stanford, they really rely on Michael Ford to get it done for them thus far. I don't know if that's good enough to, squeak out a win. San Jose State, despite the play of Walker Eaget this far, they've shown that they can rely on, Jabari Bates and Floyd Chalk to carry it out, get down the field, get some first downs, and really put the pressure on the opposing defense to limit their yards per game. It just feels like you can rely on the Spartans' offensive game more so than Stanford. What we've seen from Stanford was a team that cannot pass to save their life. They're physical, but that physicality only goes so far. Right now, San Jose State ain't winning the turnover battle. They're -5 on turnovers. Meanwhile, Stanford is -1. Both teams are, averaging around 17, 18 points per game. They do not score that much, at least for the moment, in San Jose State's favor. They're not really a penalized team. Stanford has, twice as many penalties as they do coming into this game. I think if you're, fans of both teams, you're going to find yourselves just crossing your fingers when either one of these quarterbacks throws the ball. Ben Goldbranson did not look good whatsoever against that Hawaii team. Meanwhile, Walker Eaget, he's coming into the season a little more hype, but has not performed that well. I think I would still favor Eaget in this matchup, and I trust that he has the guys around him that can take the load off of him a little bit and not rely him to do so much. I think Stanford's defense will be, physical and try and put as much pressure on Eaget as they can. That's why I think Spartans should rely on the running game first and foremost before trying to air it out. And if they do find a way to pass the ball effectively, I think Stanford could be in real trouble. In a game of, who do you trust more when both teams are playing inconsistent, just sort of out-of-luck football, I think I would take the Spartans on this one, hesitantly. Despite whatever, talent Stanford has, I would rely on the running game of the Spartans to come out ahead in this one. If Walker Eaget has a good showing, then the Spartans can win this game by a few scores. I would not surprised to see this game tightly contested throughout and no team really separating themselves, most likely due to mistakes and turnovers, but both teams. San Jose State goes on the road to take on Stanford. It's a 5:30 Mountain Time game on ACC Network. Be sure to check this one out. It's looking like you're going to be able to get to bed early this weekend. Our final Mountain West matchup of the day, it's Appalachian State going on to take on Boise State. It's a 5:30 Mountain Time game on FS1. Boise State's look like they found their rhythm so far and 2-1 on the season, taking on a good Appalachian State team, also 2-1. The Broncos are 16.5 point favorites. Over-under on this game is 60. After what they did to Air Force a week ago, you have to be feeling pretty confident if you're Boise State. You feel like you got your offense established and your defense is playing good enough football, not quite up to par what they were last year, but still good enough to limit drives and give your offense the ball with some good field position. Maddox Madsen's been, Mr. Cool behind the pocket. The emergence of Dylan Riley has been key for the Broncos the past couple of weeks. Had a career day last weekend, 4 touchdowns. Now they take on Appalachian State team that's a little rocky offensively. A.J. Swan coming in this game, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 879 yards through the air. Rashad Dubinion is their guy. He's got 400 yards running the ball, 2 touchdowns on the season. Although the Broncos got their wins against Eastern Washington and Air Force to start their season, you still have to feel confident that they can get into the end zone against that level of competition. Meanwhile, App State has got wins against Charlotte, against Lindenwood, and a loss against Southern Miss a couple weeks ago. It may not look it, but I feel like their defense is honed in than the box score may say for them this season. Offensively will be their big issue. I don't think they're going to even match the firing power that Boise State has. I think the past couple of wins for Boise State's got their confidence at an all-time high on the season. I think they're going to get it done and keep up the momentum. Really get App State out of this one early. Really trying to put on a statement before they do go to South Bend and take on Notre Dame. This is their precursor to that, and let the nation know that they're the real deal, and that when they hopefully get this win and move on to the Fighting Irish, that they're ready for them. Definitely not a team to sleep on in App State. They've been one of the better teams in Sun Belt for the past couple of years. They like to come into these games as a huge underdog and make it a tightly contested game throughout, and maybe get some upsets along the way. I don't know if their offense right now is at that point, but you're never sure what you're going to get with the Mountaineers. They pride themselves on playing solid, clean football and giving people a run for their money. I do favor Boise State to win this one comfortably. I think they've gotten their kinks out from that week one loss, and I think they're really trying to make a statement for the coming weeks. Some big games ahead. App State goes on the road to take on Boise State. It's a 5:30 Mountain Time game on FS1. Be sure to check this one out.